Hey guys, in this lesson we're going to talk a little bit about Chapter 8 of They Say I Say, which focuses on connecting the parts. Now, this is probably my favorite chapter in the entire book because it deals with an issue that I see in freshman writing all the time, and it explains what's wrong and how you might fix it in a way that I think is really easy to understand. So, they open with this example of Bill's dog. Now, that's my dog. She's not a good dog, but that's beside the point. We're going to talk about Bill's dog, Spot. So, Bill writes stuff about his dog. He says, Spot is a good dog. He has fleas. And his teacher looks at that, and his teacher's like, well, there's two perfectly well structured sentences, two good ideas, but I don't understand at all what they have to do with each other. What does the fact that he has fleas have to do with Spot being a good dog? What would actually be better is if Bill used some sort of connecting words to join these two ideas. Like if he said, Spot is a good dog, but he has fleas. Or Spot is a good dog, even though he has fleas. Now, this is a really simple example, but I do see this from you guys all the time. You come up with a good idea and you write it down. Marijuana is considered a gateway drug. Then you come up with another idea. Some people think marijuana can lead to using cocaine. Then you come up with another idea. Marijuana was made illegal in 1921, or whatever. You have all these ideas about the thing that you're talking about, and you just start listing them. Well, it feels good because you're getting closer to your 2 to 3 page limit or whatever you're trying to accomplish, and you've got some text on the page instead of just staring at a white sheet of a white blank screen. But just putting ideas is not on the page is not enough. We've got to know what those ideas have to do with each other. We got to know how they are building towards some sort of thesis, towards some sort of a final paper. So They Say I Say has this little picture in there of hands reaching out between two sentences. And I really like this little image because it's a good way of thinking about it. You're writing a sentence. That sentence has hands going in either direction. The hands are reaching back to the sentence that came before and reaching forward to the next sentence that's going to come. It's not just sitting there completely isolated. It follows logically from the sentence that came before and leads into the next one. So every time you're writing a sentence, you need to think about what does this sentence have to do with what I just said, and what does it have to do with what's coming next. And the same goes for paragraph by paragraph and section by section. Your paragraphs should reach to the paragraphs before and after so that we know how one flows into the other. And as we move from one section of your paper to the next, say, for example, from the introduction to the argument or from the argument to the proposal, we should see how those flow together too so that your overall paper has a very cohesive feel. The way to do this is use some of these strategies that They Say I Say suggests. One of them is using transitions. Now on page 109 and 110 is an extremely useful list of transitions. I would suggest like bookmarking or dog-earing this page. Anytime you're trying to figure out a transition to move from one sentence to another or one paragraph to another, you can just look on this page and find the word that you need based on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to add something, you would use also, besides, indeed, or one of the other words on there. If you're trying to contrast something, although, despise, whereas. If you're trying to make a conclusion, as a result, in sum, thus, they have words for all the different transitions that you might want to try and make. So you don't even have to come up with the transition. All you have to do is know what you're trying to accomplish, find the page on They Say I Say, and pick the word that best serves the goal that you're trying to meet. So transitions are one way to give your paper that cohesive feeling. Another way is something called pointing words. Now what these words are doing is they are pointing back to things that have come before in the paper. When you use pointing words to refer to other parts of your paper, it adds to that overall unity, that overall cohesiveness. So words like this, these, that, those, there, such, he, his, her, it, she, all that stuff, those are all words that point back to things that came before. This idea, her plan, we're referring back to things that we just discussed so that we can see how what we're saying now relates to what it was that we said just a minute ago. Another thing that you can do throughout the paper to give it that cohesiveness is repeating key terms and phrases. Now that doesn't mean just repeating yourself or putting whole sentences in there, but if there are key terms or ideas that we really need to get across, repeating them can make your paper stronger and really emphasize the key ideas. For example, I've talked a lot about ethos, pathos, and logos this semester. You've heard those words a lot, but you know that they're obviously important. So it's key to remember those. That's why I repeat them. Let's look at what Martin Luther King does in his letter from a Birmingham jail. Dear fellow clergymen, while confined here in Birmingham City Jail, I came across your recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom do I pause to answer criticism of my work and ideas. If I sought to answer all the criticisms that crossed my desk, my secretaries would have little time for anything other than such correspondence in the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. But since I feel that you are men of genuine goodwill and that your criticisms are sincerely set forth, I will try to answer your statement in what I hope will be patient and reasonable terms. So it's very clear what he's doing here. He has received criticisms and he's going to answer them. He's repeated these key terms again and again so that we know exactly what Martin Luther King is hoping to accomplish with these letters, this letter that he's writing. So you can do the same thing. If you've got a main idea you really want to stress, repeating the key terms that are related to that idea can help indicate how important it is and give your paper that cohesive feel. Now, we want to make sure you're not just being repetitive. So don't repeat the same sentence over and over again. I like to use the word reiterate. So reiterating is when you say the same thing, but you say it slightly differently, or you take a different approach to explaining something. So explaining something twice can be a good thing as long as you're not using the exact words, in which case people begin to get bored and stuff. So repeating yourself with a difference can work well. The last thing I want to talk about is the idea of your paper being a cohesive structure that is built from the ground up. If we have something like the Eiffel Tower, the Eiffel Tower is huge. If you've ever actually been to Paris, it's even bigger than you think it is. It is a gigantic tower, and it's over 100 years old. It's been standing there through the wind and the rain, and who knows how many millions of people walking up and down it. It's still standing. The reason is because of how it's put together. First of all, it's built on a strong foundation, which hopefully your paper is built on a strong foundation of research. But second, it is connected the entire way through. You can see all these connections. All the joists, all the different pieces of steel are connected to one another. We're using the appropriate bolts and rivets or whatever, so that every part serves its purpose and flows smoothly into the next part until we get to the very, very top. Your paper should be the same. Every part connected to the part that came before, building and building and building, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, section by section, until you've got this strong paper put together that's going to stand the test of time, just like this tower has stood the test of time. If you have the strong connections, you connect the parts just like they say and they say, I say, you're going to end up with the great paper. All right, that's it for this lesson. Any questions, just let me know.